You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
We got a busy one, Dave. Welcome to it. How are you?
Ross, great to see you. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Good to see you, too.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we're hearing you great, man.
I got a powerful voice. It's the voice of justice. It's the voice of reason.
It is. We've been screwing around today on a side note before we get real serious with the Law Frog here. McDivittLaw, by the way, .com if you want to find out more, if you need some help. Personal injuries there, forte, but he's helping us out with everything. Where's my chat GPT? Played around with AI much at all?
No, I'm scared as hell of AI. Seriously, I grew up watching Terminator movies. The last thing on earth I want is our world
right?
to be
Terminator and
by.
The Matrix really are very influential in my brain as far as I'm scared of what's going on here.
I'm telling you what, man, this stuff really does, it spooks me a bit.
So we've been writing movies for everyone, like me and John, a traffic guy, did our own. We gave Summer her own movie, and then I asked ChatGPT to, can you write a movie synopsis about a handsome single father of two who overcomes a speech impediment and the difficulties of being a single father to become a successful lawyer? And starring you.
Really?
It's called Against All Odds. Uplifting and heartfelt story of you, Alex Bennett, a handsome and determined single father of two who faces numerous challenges in his pursuits of a successful career of being a lawyer while overcoming a speech impediment. Yeah, I threw that in there. I know you never had a speech impediment, but I just figured you have to have some kind of chink in the armor.
Oh, I have so many chinks. It's probably good you didn't give AI a list of the chinks in my armor.
Through resilience, love, and unwavering determination, Alex proves that through dedication, anything is possible.
I love
and it gives the whole breakdown about how
you just gave it those prompts, and then it came out with a movie synopsis.
Write a synopsis about a handsome single father who overcomes a speech impediment to become a lawyer. Okay, and it spits out that, and I can ask it for scenes if I'd like.
And this is exactly why there's a writer's strike in California, because, not just California, but I mean, call it the Hollywood industry.
Right. Well, that's what started this whole thing. John Michaels mentioned earlier. He's like, do we even need those Hollywood writers with AI? And I was like, no, let's see if we can get a movie. And the couple we spit out were, I mean, it's granted, it's not
you really
the
did start
product.
with that as the predicate for. That's what. Here, look, I'll be honest, and there are things on the internet that tell me I need to calm down. That I don't need to be an AI. Hater necessarily, but
an AIist. We're gonna be labeled as AIist.
Yeah, are you anti AI, Ross Ford? But it does. It gives me a little bit of the spooks, man.
A little bit.
It really does.
Anything else you want? We got you here for a whole hour. So give us a call at 633-KILO, or you can shoot text over. Let me pull that up, make sure it's up and ready. Yeah, our text line is going good. So whatever you need, feel free. Let's start with the big story right now with those folks in sitting Indian style with their legs crossed. 5 people jammed in a 20-foot, basically, tube that is sealed from the outside and probably sitting at the bottom of the ocean. And every half hour, they're beating on the wall, trying to alert people as to where they are.
I'll tell you what, so we can get into, I know there's a legal component to this too. There's also just this whole compassion element to this. I'm going to start with this, though, which is I have grown up knowing the story of the Titanic and how unfortunate it was for all of those people who perished on the Titanic, who in the middle of the ocean on a cold night met their doom. And that I ache for them. You couldn't pay me $250,000 or $250 million to then go and get in a little minivan and put my way down to see exactly where that ship was. There's some bad juju with the Titanic.
That's actually a good
and
point.
I hope to God that they get these people out alive. But, I mean, have you noticed this is the kind of thing that happens to billionaires? Right. They find very creative ways of dying.
Well, one of the guys already went up to space, so he survived his trip to space.
And to the Mariana Trench, apparently, to an even deeper part of the ocean.
Wow.
But it'll catch up to you, man. Yeah. No, listen, I ache for these guys. This is just, it's heartbreaking. I hope they come out.
It would be an amazing story. I would love them to survive just to hear what they experienced over the last 72 hours.
Yeah. To get a breakdown of what kind of giant sea monster tried to swallow them. I mean, the other thing, Ross, they don't know. I mean, from what I know, they don't know if they're bobbing on the ocean, like on the top, like in the waves, or if they're sunk to the bottom, if they're somewhere in between. I have no idea.
Yeah, it is. And there's no way to get out, even if they are lucky enough to be floating on top of the ocean.
I wondered about that. Okay,
I wonder, we can't. 18 bolts sealed from the outside is what shrinks that thing. There's no escape. No escape.
Okay.
And when I read some of that, we put a video yesterday. CBS did a ride along, and that's what brought me to the question about signing waivers, because the reporter was going through his legal paperwork, and he started to read him something like, this is an experimental vehicle,
right?
And anything can happen, including bodily injury, and death. And he's like, where do I sign? And jokingly, and he signed it. William Shatner talked about the legal papers he had to sign when he took that trip to space.
Sure.
And he's like, it was several pages of doom and gloom, and you're going to die. Sign here. Can they enforce that then? Are you like...
A lot of them are. A lot of these waivers are legally enforceable. But for the same reason.
Because you know what you're getting into, is that it?
You go in with your eyes open. I think that, keep in mind, that's a lot of the law isn't about just trying to make sure you can twist somebody to pay you money if something bad goes on. What it is to make sure that things are fair. People are treated fairly. And if you go into a situation, especially like this, frankly, where it is an extreme risk that something can go on, so something bad can happen, and you go in with your eyes open, and you have been, and especially with these billionaires who have access to, very high-priced attorneys who can review these waivers with them as well. And that's the other thing too. Is there a coercion element to it too? They talk about contracts of adhesion, and we can get into really kind of the morass of the legal specifics, but the bottom line is you've got a piece of paper that tells you these are the things that could happen. And you could even come to the top of the surface, you get out, you survive, but you've got medical conditions because of the extreme pressure that you might have experienced down there. Are you willing to do it? Because just know, we are telling you, this could go wrong, right? It's experimental. You're willing to do it? Okay, sign here. Okay. By the way, we're not making you go on this submarine. You're choosing to do this. And we're selling this to you for $250,000. So absent some kind of, for example, in Colorado, we have jurisprudence, we have laws that say what is going to get you out of a waiver, because we do waivers all the time when you go skiing, snowmobiling tours, things like that. In Colorado, there are some things.
LASIK surgery years ago, there was a law.
There's a waiver for that.
But it was almost scary. You go blind.
Right, exactly. But
initial here, you can go blind.
There are parts of some of these waivers are going to say, you're also excusing us from any kind of like gross negligence, like, we really screwed up. We should have probably been more careful. But there is something that they call willful and wanton conduct, which can be defined, and courts have defined it in different ways. And I don't know what kind of waiver or what kind of law is going to control any kind of waiver paperwork that they signed for this expedition to the Titanic. But the bottom line is, absent some kind of like almost deliberate thing, like you're not waiving away the right to or for your family to sue somebody when it turns out that the tour operator was deliberately trying to take it down there and not bring it up, right? There are some just levels of just gross recklessness where it becomes almost like a deliberate action to cause harm. The waivers aren't going to cover those. Now, there are some things that we get into, like an airline. You're flying on an airplane, commercial airplanes. They're really not signing a waiver on that. And that's why you see litigation against the airline manufacturer. The airlines, aircraft manufacturers when a plane goes down. This is the kind of thing, though, where I suspect, now, granted, does not mean that there won't be somebody, if they don't survive in their families, trying to bring a lawsuit here. And they will look for ways around a waiver. But oftentimes courts are reluctant to get away from that. Now, there's also, by the way, a lot of these suits wouldn't necessarily be against the tour operator. They might be against the manufacturer of the craft, which, by the way, it may be one and the same. It could be that.
And that was highlighted in the CBS video that we posted at kilo943.com. They talked to this guy, and he's showing him around. He's like, hey, it's run by this, and it's a PlayStation, Bluetooth PlayStation remote.
I wear this in my basement.
He's like, really? And he's like, yeah, I got these at what was it, Camping World? It was the lights in there, and he's pointing stuff, and the guy's like, this is kind of MacGyvered, isn't it? And he's like, well, I wouldn't call it that, but there's like these, when I first heard about it being lost, this thing, there's a button you could push to release weights and it would bring it back to the surface. And that was nothing but a bunch of old pipes and some sandbags that were tied to the side of this thing.
Holy cow.
So it wasn't, even the reporter's like, is this really seaworthy?
Yeah, this is not the kind of thing that you, like Boeing has created necessarily. Like some of the stuff is cobbled together because, and that is that kind of spirit of expedition that I think attracts some of these people to that. This idea that say, look, human beings haven't done this kind of a thing before, so let's figure out a way to get it done. And I admire that. Ross, I would not do it because I have
so even $250 million, you wouldn't jump in that thing. I don't know if I could now after seeing how cramped it is.
$250 million, I don't know. Listen.
Right? Depends on how many hours.
I don't know, but is there a rope that's going to pull me back up? Look, honestly though, Ross, there's a point where you just say, like, I just really, truly value like being able to see a sunset. Like, that's an adventure for me, right?
Seeing your children.
Do I need to go down and see the Titanic?
Having a cold beer, right?
No, thanks. I've seen the movie.
The irony in the fact that they all paid $250,000 to experience the most horrific thing you could experience. I'd rather get mauled by a bear than being in their situation right now. If they are, in fact, alive and tapping on this thing every half hour.
That's we're going to find out. I think there's going to be a press conference.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
He was getting benefits from disability.
Right.
And correct me if I'm butchering this at all. He lost those after having an episode when he was arrested, and the arrest made him ineligible for those benefits.
Well, it's not just the arrest, it's the incarceration, too.
Incarceration,
So
okay.
He became a...
So he lost all that, and now they're trying to reinstate the same things, and now they're denying it. It's like he's not any better. If anything, he's probably worse. And last time, because they had an advocate working with them, they got it approved. She's having trouble doing it this first time. I mean, this is obviously a kid who has some problems, has had well-documented problems, and then to be a schizophrenic and then lose your coverage because you're arrested because you do something crazy because you're schizophrenic.
Yeah.
It's a circle. It needs to be broken. I don't understand it, man.
Well, it is. And listen, I've known several people just growing up who are schizophrenic, and when they're on medication, when they're medicated, things seem to work out for them okay.
Right.
They can relate to people. They can get kind of go through the normal course of daily life. But oftentimes they stop taking the medication because there are side effects of these medications, and it can make it difficult. And so people then opt out of the medicine, and then all of a sudden the underlying condition just rears its ugly head, and it's very difficult for them to function.
Yeah,
It's a really difficult.
Sandy, good luck. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, we'll reach out to you, Sandy.
All right, well, let's get to which one of the new one just came in this morning. I didn't get to send you this.
Oh, no. Tell me about this new one.
The new one, my employer, a rather large one. This is from Handsome Rob. Again, not to be confused with his brother,
Ugly Pete.
Ugly Rob. And, of course, his other brother, Confused Rob. He's my favorite of the Robs, though.
He's the middle child.
So my employer, a rather large one, keeps insisting that it's Colorado law. We have to take a 30-minute lunch whether we want to or not. If I'm not mistaken, it's required by law. Wait, am I butchering this? If I'm not mistaken, it's required by law for said employer to make a 30-minute lunch available. Even if we don't take a break, they still take out 30 minutes of our day.
So I think what Handsome Rob is asking is, from Handsome Rob's perspective, his understanding is that it's required. They're required by law to make that 30 minutes available if the employee decides to opt in to taking that 30-minute break. But if the employee decides, no, I just want to work through that 30-minute break, then Rob's perspective is the employer shouldn't then dock 30 minutes.
At 4:30 as opposed to 5.
Right. Well, I mean, my understanding of Colorado labor laws is that they are required, employers are required to give the employees that 30-minute break. And so whether the employee wants to eat on their break or not is really kind of up to them. But the employer is going to, by extension, the employer then is allowed to then deduct that time. However, if for some reason the condition, this is typically the way that it works, if the condition of employment is such that you really can't take that 30-minute break, like you have to be at your desk or you have to be at the assembly line, wherever it is that you can eat then while you're working. However, but then the employer has to then pay you that 30 minutes. But it's just the nature of the employment. So there are different factors that may play into this. So, Handsome, I don't know exactly what the nature of your employment is, but and more importantly, what the nature of what it is you're trying to accomplish here is. Because if you just want to kind of sit at your desk and hang out and keep working, are you the kind of person that truly doesn't eat a lunch? And there are some people who just don't. They plow through the day and they do not eat. But I think that not because I don't practice labor law, so I want to be very careful here. My understanding, though, is that the employer has the right to then just say these are 30-minute mandatory breaks. And we're not going to pay you from 12 to 12:30. We don't expect you to work. You can work. But again, they almost have to then mandate that they don't work, because then if the person is working, when they're not being paid.
If they work, they just turn a blind eye to it?
No. And it's,
or can you rap, you stop working. You're on your break. Sounds pretty stupid to me.
I'm not giving it. I guarantee you right now, Ross. Well, I don't know how many labor lawyers are listening, but they are pulling their hair out that I'm not giving a more clear answer here. I'm sure there's a crystal clear way to look at it. I've just always understood that the employees, have that 30-minute break. They get it. They just get it. Rob just doesn't want to take it.
You know why? Because he's handsome. That's why he wants to be out on the town doing handsome things.
What else would you want to do? If it's noon and your name's handsome, Rob.
That's
you want to be out there making people know you're handsome.
Let's see here. What else? We're going to talk about a grandma who won a case about getting one of her neighbors to stop smoking weed, medicinal marijuana in our great nation's capital. Believe that or not, I'm stunned that worked. Let's see, what time is it? It's 9:30. When we do let's do the other question then from the email. This was from Against My Will. Got a question for McDivitt. My former coworker applied for a job and was told he got it. He was sent an official letter, which he signed and returned, put in his 2 weeks notice, left this place in good terms. Day before he was supposed to start, called his new boss, said, "Hey, boss, it's me, Handsome Rob. What's all the details about my new job?" And where to meet, all this stuff. And the boss says, you don't have the job. Someone else should have called him. Does he have any recourse? He quit his job knowing he had a new and higher paying job. And now nothing. That's just got to be the emptiest feeling in the world. Can you help Mr. McDivitt? So says Against My Will. What do you think?
Well, it really depends.
I know. Dude, of all the cases, I was like, this is cut right. Only because if there was no letter, I'd be like, well, dude, you're kind of hosed, I think. But the fact he's got some kind of a letter from them?
Yeah, but what is
that like the smoking gun?
It may be. Well, that's what I mean. It depends on really what's in that letter, how it's framed. Because Colorado is an employment at will state.
What does that mean?
Which means that you can offer somebody a position and then absent some kind of illegal reason for firing them, you can fire them at any time. You just don't want them working there anymore. Now, there are some protected classes of people where you have to be very careful. There are some reasons that you want to fire them that just violate some other kind of regulation. But generally, that's what it means. And by the way, as an employee, you can quit at any time too.
Okay.
Right? So, however, there are, you like that? So, however. However, there are times when an employment contract will then dictate the terms of the employment. Was this offer letter a contract? I don't know. If it just said, "Hey, Bob, we're pleased to offer you the position." The position starts on June 30th, and it pays $18 an hour. We're really excited to see you on June 30th. I don't think that's going to qualify. That's the kind of letter that they give you, so then you can go and then you can give it to a landlord when you're trying to get an apartment, saying, "Yeah, I do have. Here's an employment letter, so I do have a job. You want to anticipate it." Now, circumstances change. The employer can just say, "Hey, look, we offered you this job. By the way, I'm sorry you quit your other job, but you know what? Turns out that position's no longer open." Wow. Right? So that's that's a tough position to be in, right? Now, I would say that, look, this is the practical advice. I mean, if you're taking a new job and you turn in your 2 weeks notice, before you turn in your 2 weeks notice, just double check. It doesn't hurt to double check with the new employer and say, "Hey, I'm about to turn in my notice today. We good on this?"
We good?
Again, that doesn't make it a contract either. But
right,
but then there's less uncertainty, and then a weekend, just say, "Hey, I just want to make sure what do I need to get ready for next Friday?" And then that's when they're going to say, "Oh, geez, Bob, we didn't realize. We thought it was Rob.
Yeah.
Not Bob.
Sorry.
Is
this Handsome Rob? Sorry, we wanted Ugly Rob.
Yeah, sorry, or Confused Rob.
So Against My Will.
So it's really going to
strike it out. Okay. Well, let's then go to preemptive strikes then. Let's say you are maybe leaving your job, which you've been at for a while, for a new job. How do you then set the table to make sure you don't find yourself hosed like this guy? A contract, what would you want in that contract saying, "We, blah, 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 are giving you, blah, 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 this specific job paying, blah, 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 starting on this day"?
Oh, okay. Well, so then there's going to be like something in the contract where it says the term of the employment is definite. Like, we are employing you starting June 30th for a period of 2 years, at which point in time we will revisit a new contract of employment, for example. There's the guaranteed money. You will be paid during the term of this contract, $35,000 a year. You will be eligible for bonuses based on quarterly performance in the amount of $500 per quarter. And, and this contract is governed by the laws of Colorado, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of contractual language in there, but the idea is if it gives a defined period of employment and a guaranteed pay, and it's structured like that, you could infer that is a contract. Okay. Perhaps. I mean, again, this is the stuff that gets litigated. Again. This is the stuff that gets litigated. Yeah. There are some contracts that just say at the top, contract of employment. This contract entered into between Ross Ford and David McDivitt for a duration of 2 years, entered into this 21st day of June 2023, at which point Ross will pay David $25,000 a year to live in Ross's basement and provide periodic entertainment in the form of jokes. And David will be paid bonuses quarterly, et cetera, at the end of 2 years. This contract will renew absent some kind of renegotiation, that kind of a thing. So what we're talking about really are the middle ground, the letters or the things that can be done that could kind of imply that there is a contract. I don't think, based on the surface, I have enough information to say whether there's an implied contract of employment here.
You'd have to see exactly what that letter says.
I'd have to see it. Handsome, are you on the phone? No, this isn't Handsome, Rob.
This is against my will, but he didn't leave a number. He didn't leave a phone number for us. Because I'd like to know the conclusion, because he shot this to us right after we wrapped up last month.
And is he asking for a friend, or is he asking for a friend?
He's like, hey, I got duped. So a phone call, definitely not going to keep that job secure. Email, maybe if the verbiage is right, really just a full-blown contract.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
Still married, and they're looking to officially file for divorce. It's amicable. They do have one kid. They want to make it as cheap as possible, and that was his question. Can they do it on the down low? And he says it's not even that easy, huh? Right, welcome, Jason. How long are you guys married for, Jason?
15 years.
15 years or so. That's cool that you guys, especially you had a kid and you still are on a conversation level. That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, we get that. We actually get that a lot.
No, that's awesome. More people need to let it go, man. Let it go. So, You think it'd be easy? They both are in. Go to the courthouse, sign a couple papers. I'm going to take half of this.
I feel like you misquoted me when you said. What? I said, I don't know. I got the impression that I made it sound like it's going to be really difficult.
Jason, this is going to cost you millions, son.
Nah, it's not what I said. I said maybe. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands, not millions. No, Jason, here's what I was telling Jason off the air, too, is that I think there have been people in his life telling him you both need to get lawyers. And I'm saying you don't have to do that. Now, you may find at some point it would probably make sense. I don't know.
Like a time management type thing, the amount of work they're going to have to do?
Yeah, because there's a little bit of a learning curve to this, but all the documentation you need to fill out, that you need to file to begin and ultimately complete the process of getting legally divorced are available. You can just go to the court's website to get that. There are instructions. There are even clinics that the court will offer. I believe that they still do this. You can go in periodically, and they'll have somebody there kind of advise on, be a group of people. They're all in the same situation. They all want to file for divorce, and they want to do it without lawyers. These clinics that kind of advise you on the steps of how you fill out the paperwork. You do have a child. That does complicate it a little bit, only in the sense that there is additional paperwork that needs to be filed. You both need to make sure you have, I would say, a very rock-solid understanding of what this custody arrangement is going to look like.
Have you always discussed the custody already, too, Jason? Do you guys know how you're going to line that up?
Yeah, we've had quite a bit of the paperwork already filled out and stuff, but then we were also told that we have to go to classes because he's under the age of 16 on how to break it to him, but he already knows the whole situation, so I didn't know if there's additional classes we have to do to fill out the paperwork kind of thing, but I didn't know that there was clinics, so that might be something that would really help.
Yeah, there are, and there are also there are certain, I guess, businesses that are people they're not lawyers. They may be paralegals, or they have experience in helping people fill out their divorce paperwork. You can find one of these services to help out too. The bottom line, though, is you can do it yourself. I don't know what all of the requirements are for filing the paperwork right now, especially with a child, and this requirement that you have to go to a class on how to break it to them. I'm not sure what that particular requirement is, and I don't know what additional requirements there might be as it relates to child. I went through divorce. We had very, very small children at the time. We were doing all of these things kind of anyway, and we did have lawyers, but it was a very complicated situation, you know. And the other thing is, there may be steps, because it sounds like you want to make sure that you guys kind of clear the runway for future relationships. And that's kind of the main reason for even going through the process of divorce. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, even filing taxes at the point is better to just stay married.
I know.
Versus separating and everything like that. So that's kind of like our whole point. That's why we haven't rushed it. We've probably been seeing other people for the last 5 years, but still technically married. So,
well, what do you want to get married again?
Not anytime soon.
Does she?
But like she might. Okay. I don't think she's with anybody at the moment. But it's kind of like, usually in my situation, I tell people this and they run for the hills.
Yeah,
like,
and I can
I'm married, but
that.
we've been separated for long.
Yeah,
that's
look, I'm in the same boat too. When I meet a woman and she's still in a marriage, and you know her husband comes home, I mean things get really kind of awkward. It's a joke. Hello, but no, it is a complicating thing. I would like to get married again, and if I'm dating a woman who's
are
they're
you
separated
proposing to me?
Ross, I'm not saying anything. We just got off the air talking about me living in your basement.
Jason, can you be my best man?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah.
So, man, you would think that the fact that they're dialed in and they both have the same mindset, it'd be a lot easier. Or is it easier?
There are some people they're older. They might have adult children who just choose not to get divorced. It's just easier for them. And because they don't want to get married again. They have maybe an understanding new partner who's like, look, hey, we're just going to be kind of life partners. But, you know, we're not going to get some of the benefits of a union, a legal union of some sort. But we're going to be partners. My husband here, he's still married to his wife. I'm still married to my husband, or whatever. I'm trying to put my mind so I'm a woman in this scenario, but let's just say I'm a man in this. Oh, let's make it easier. All right.
Yeah.
It can work, but I really think you can do this yourself. I think it's good. You're trying to get this clarity, especially for your child. But you have other questions.
So the end result is, yes, it is possible. It's a little bit easier, the fact that you're both on the same page, but there's a lot of paperwork. It might be a little bit easier on you as far as time and effort spent to get a lawyer. But if you think you're already on the right track, maybe you can do it.
And isn't that what Ashley Madison's for?
I don't know about that one.
You know what that is? Isn't that the website for people who want to have extramarital affairs?
That's the one, where they hacked it and leaked all the people that were on it.
Yeah, I used to hear ads for that all the time. I don't hear them anymore.
I don't think. Yeah, I wonder if there's still a thing. Well, look at you, man. Dig it deep. Cool. Well, Jason, good luck, buddy. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
All right, man. Once again, no easy answers. Now let's get to our final quandary. Were you surprised at that story I sent you about the old lady that won the case?
No, I'm going to tell you why. I have lived that. I am the old lady.
What?
Yeah. No, I have.
So if you missed the story, as I forget exactly how, 70s, living in Washington, D.C. at an apartment place, and one of her neighbors, she could always smell his weed. He had a medicinal license, so he was smoking medical marijuana. He said he would smoke on the patio when he could, but the landlord said it was cool if he smoked inside when the weather was bad. He said he'd do it all the time, just a couple, 3 minutes a day. She took him to court, and 3 years later, judge ruled she was in the right. He can no longer smoke in the building or anywhere. I think they put some kind of restraining order around
25 feet.
25 feet around her place. And you were not surprised.
No, and here's why. Because it can be deemed a nuisance.
Okay.
You know, there's something like that, kind of a noxious smell. For some people, it is noxious, and it could be a nuisance. The reason I say I've lived it, I'm the old lady, is because I spent a year and a half living in a condo in a loft in Denver while we were remodeling this house. I was with my little kids. At one point, we got a new neighbor. That new neighbor moved in, and that new neighbor smoked a lot of pot. The only way to get to our unit was to walk in front of this neighbor's unit to then get to our unit. We were pinned in the corner. Almost every day, I'd bring the kids back from school, and we would walk in the hallway, and my little kids, my son's, I think when we first moved there, he was 7. He's like, Daddy, it smells like marijuana again. I said, I know. Let's just get inside. And generally, in most of our unit, we didn't smell it. But if we ever went toward our front door, where we kept our shoes and things like that, jackets. But it was still in our unit, but you could just smell it. And it felt like it was coming through just the drywall. It was coming under the door. It was everywhere. And so And, I didn't want that smell around my kids. Now, I will tell you this. My kids have a very acute nose for the smell of marijuana. They can tell the strain, right? They're like, that's
definitely some Kush, Dad. I think it's some purple nurple.
Purple nurple, man. But so in this situation, I think, you could make a claim. And again, so let's get into the weeds here a little bit. This was
the weeds, no pun intended.
Gosh.
Look at you. You're on fire today, Dave.
Wow. This was a trial court decision in D.C. And so let's analogize that to Colorado here. You can sue a neighbor, perhaps. I don't know where it would go because in Colorado, obviously, you don't even need to show medicinal need to be able to smoke under Colorado laws. So they could be smoking in their own apartment. There may be an issue. Let's just say you also have a very permissive landlord as well who's okay with this. And so then the question becomes, did it violate the terms of a lease agreement that the offended person has to be free from noxious smells, things like that? Let's assume that the lease is silent on that. So then the question really just becomes a private action between the person who doesn't like the smell of marijuana in their house and the person who's smoking the marijuana. That person theoretically could make a claim against the smoker and say, hey, this is causing me health conditions because of this, and it's affecting my life. In Colorado, what would a trial judge rule? I don't know. I mean, there may be cases like this. I haven't seen them. But a trial court can make a decision and say, yes, you know what? In this case, it violates your right. It is like a trespass, for lack of a better word. But I mean, it is this idea that this came in and it's a nuisance smell. There are then appellate courts that are going to determine ultimately whether or not that law is going to really apply or not. So a trial court decision might stand, and it'll set some level of precedence, or it'll be persuasive on other courts in Colorado, for example. But it's not until it becomes an appellate decision that it becomes truly the kind of thing where you can say throughout the state of Colorado, for example, the judge in El Paso County found that it was a nuisance, but a judge in Boulder County found it was not a nuisance. So you've got these competing decisions here.
Okay. Then you go to another higher court.
Then you go to a higher court. Now that court might say, yes, in fact, we determined that this is a nuisance. So then the question then gets kicked back down to a state level, to the trial court level, to find out if, in fact, the plaintiff proved that they were actually impacted by it. It's one thing for something to be a nuisance. It's another for you to then have like a medical reaction to it. And so in the case of this D.C. decision, the trial court said, yeah, you can't smoke the pot. But then he said to the woman, the pot. And then he said, you can't smoke the pot. But then he said to the woman, he's like, but you didn't prove that you were actually, like, your health problems are because of that. So she won and she lost. I think she ultimately won because she got the guy to stop. Now, again, that's persuasive on other courts in the District of Columbia, but it is not. It doesn't have the force of law in every area else. So, and certainly everywhere
until
else.
It gets to a higher court, it would have no effect here in Colorado. Then,
but that decision alone wouldn't. And in fact, what happens is then you have the multiple levels of multiple appellate levels. So in Colorado, for example, the Colorado Court of Appeals, certain decisions, then you disagree with that, or you might have the Colorado Supreme Court then weigh on some of these decisions. And then there's some laws that take place in Colorado that actually have like federal level implications, and that's when you get up to the United States Supreme Court through the federal appellate court system. So I mean, just because this happened in D.C., I don't know how a judge will rule in Colorado on something like this. Yeah. All I know is I called management.
What does your lawyer gut say?
I'll tell you what, I called the management at my condo building. I was like, hey, can we do anything about this? And like, I don't know, man. It's because it's legal in Colorado. We can't stop them from smoking. They can't smoke on the hallways, but they own the unit. They can smoke cigarettes if they want. And since marijuana is legal, they can smoke the pot. So what do I think a court would say? I don't know.
Just the legality of it changes the whole thing dynamically.
I think what's going to be these cases at the trial court level are so often fact dependent. So what are the facts of the case that's brought in front of a judge? Well, and there, gosh, Ross, I don't know. There might be 1,000 cases that have already been litigated in Colorado on this issue. It's not my field of practice.
It's funny you mentioned that because we did the story in the Freak News, and following that, had 3 different calls, 2 people who want to know if they could also apply because they have stoners that live next to them that they're upset with. And then one stoner said, hey, man, do you think you can make me stop smoking in my apartment? I was like, I don't know. So we'll ask the law frog.
A lot of it's going to be in an apartment building. A lot of it's going to be then. Is there some kind of term in the lease, right? And then is that enforceable? But I think with marijuana, if you can analogize it to cigarette smoke, and you can just say, look, these are apartments. It's no smoking apartments, so you can't smoke pot, you can't smoke cigarettes, you can't vape. They might be able to enforce that at the actual private apartment level.
So again, taking our knowledge now and circumventing something in the future, you could maybe ask that written into your lease if it's that important to you. And if they decide to do it, then it could be enforceable?
Well, what you have written into your lease for your unit, if it conflicts with the lease of the guy next to you who gets to smoke the pot, then like that that's not going to work.
Oh my, there is literally no answers.
That's
no
exactly.
answers
You
at
bring me
all.
on for 1 hour to provide absolutely zero answers.
Huh.
But an offer of employment to hang out in your basement for 2 years and provide jokes.
Yeah, right.
Thank you for listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM, presented by McDivitt Law Firm.